My GF lies to me and she thinks I don't notice it. My GF, 20F, and I, 22F, have been together for almost 2 years now and so far everything's working out okay. Ever since the start of our relationship, she sometimes would tell me stories that I already saw on the internet. Sometimes I would subtly ask her for proof, like if they were friends on Facebook or where she knows them from, but she would quickly change the topic. She also lies about her childhood and the things that she experienced. It's not that I don't want to believe her, but a lot of her stories are contradicting. I did call her out once, but she just gets mad at me and would gaslight me by saying I triggered her past trauma even if all I did was call her out on it. I'm really at a point where I want to call her a liar because I always catch her lying to me and I never lied to her. I just want to know what to do. If she can lie about small things, remember that if it doesn't change, she'll start lying about bigger things too. Definitely a big red flag. I'd reconsider the relationship if I were you, because trust is a fundamental thing in all healthy relationships. Don't settle for a relationship that doesn't have mutual trust. Okay, so a lot of the time when people make up small lies or retell fictional stories that seem totally pointless, not to get them out of anything, or make anyone look bad, etc., they are usually struggling with a lack of attention or something else from their past or childhood. Now if this is the case, and I'm not a psychologist but I work in social work and see enough of this to recognize where it usually comes from, especially as she has mentioned past trauma. This isn't something you can fix by being a good boyfriend. She has to first recognize that she has an issue even if she can't stop it altogether at once. She then needs some therapy to get to the root of why she's doing this. She will then feel either motivated to change or motivated to hide her behavior, and it's up to her what she chooses to do. I'd have a frank conversation where you tell her you know she's a good person and you love her, but you also know you're not crazy and these little lies are gonna destroy your trust or make you question your own sanity, and that's unhealthy and not what either of you want. If you're willing to support her and she's willing to get help, you might be able to really grow together with this, but if she's not ready, don't waste your life because that day may never come and you need happiness now, not the promise of maybe being happy one day. Sit with her and calmly ask her why she is lying, then ask, if you love me, why did you lie and not trust me? I tried that but she just denies it, and when I called her a liar she didn't talk to me for 2 days. My number one rule: don't lie to someone you love, and don't love someone who lies. If you know she's lying, then you know that you can't trust her that much. She might even lie about cheating on you. How to break up with your fiance who may be suicidal. Ever since we got engaged, 8 months in, she's like a totally different person and I am constantly unhappy. I, 30M, asked her, 31F, to get married because I thought she was very sweet, kind, and a great life partner with similar values. But since then, she's been constantly picking fights, throwing tantrums, being physical during fights, not respecting my space and criticizing everything I do. This came out of nowhere. Values we once had, she no longer cares about now. And the problem is I never know when I am about to step into a fight. I feel like since I gave her the ring, she feels safe in the relationship, but I know for a fact I would have never proposed had I seen this side of her. My family and friends no longer approve or support my engagement. They all say I've lost weight and look depressed anytime I visit. I've done a lot of thinking over the past month and I don't want to move ahead with the wedding, but I have no idea how to bring her this news. Every time we fight, she cries and throws tantrums and would say she'd kill herself. I'm scared of her well-being. I'm secretly hoping she breaks up with me or finds someone else and we call it a day. But when I tried to break up with her a couple months ago, she freaked out and started crying and said she'll change, so I took her back. But things have gotten progressively worse. Is there any way of telling her it's not working out? Should I still offer to be friends? 8 months is very fast to propose to someone. You are learning now that you don't really know her. I think your insight is spot on that now she's comfortable in the relationship and showing her true colors. The physical abuse is unacceptable, and I doubt that she is suicidal because she only brings it up during fights. Run and run as fast and as far as you can from that. Oh, sorry to clarify, we met for 2 years and we are engaged for 8 months. Her mental health is not your responsibility. Be kind and assertive about it and leave. I really struggle with this. I admit I am pretty soft, and when people cry, I feel responsible for their happiness. Like, it actually makes me so sad to see her upset, so I end up hugging her and comforting her. Nowadays, I even avoid telling her anything that may set her off. Yeah, she got the ring and the mask came off. Tell her parents, tell her friends to be aware this is going on. Then tell her. And if she threatens suicide, call the emergency number. Every time she threatens suicide, call the emergency number. You can't know which times she's bluffing and which times she's serious. Then just go. After that, she's not your responsibility anymore. Do not remain friends. After all, she's abusing you. You can't allow yourself to be held hostage any longer by her emotional terrorism. And even if she does kill herself, that's not your fault. It just means she was naturally very unstable, and something would have triggered her to suicide sooner or later, even if you'd married her. But she probably won't. It's just her way of bullying you. Oh, and next time, wait until you actually know someone before proposing. Like 2 to 3 years. First of all, my condolences on the death of your relationship. Second of all, no, she is not suicidal. If she doesn't bring up her depression until during a fight and doesn't seek medical help/therapy afterwards, it is a manipulation tactic. Nothing more, nothing less. Make your exit plan. Think it through. What items of hers do you have? What items of yours does she have? Shared property, etc. Take your time to move items back to where they should be, and if you share property, talk to a lawyer about how to handle that. And then, when the moment is right, leave. Call the relationship off. Let her family know she threatens suicide sometimes if she doesn't get her way, and that you care about her as a person and don't want her to do that. They can help her pick up the pieces. Take care. I hope it goes well for you. Most people who use suicide as a threat don't want to die, they want to control you. This especially sounds like that. Just get out. You're in an abusive relationship. You don't need to rehab your abuser. Get out. I totally understand. It's just that I am afraid of that 1% chance she means it. At the end of the day, I want her to be happy too, so I'm constantly finding ways to do that. I realize I can't, so that's why I want to move on. I am in dire need of help. Someone please read this. My grandmother, 80s, is physically and emotionally abusing my grandfather, 80s. We all don't know what to do. I'm sorry if a post such as this one doesn't fit in this subreddit, but I need serious help. I don't want my grandfather to die because I was complicit in this. My grandmother is a sociopathic narcissist. She has always been this way. She has severely mentally scarred my mother and my aunts, and has tried to kill them on multiple occasions. Because all of this was happening in the 70s and 80s, I'm sure that child abuse like this wasn't taken seriously, especially in a small southern town like my own. Talking about the abuse is considered a hush-hush topic in my family, but my mom has opened up several times to me, my siblings, and my dad about the abuse she endured. Now my grandfather and possibly even my special needs cousin, who is living with my grandparents, is taking the abuse. Last week, my grandfather fell down the stairs and his arm had dislocated out of his socket. When he called my grandmother to tell her that he had fallen, her response was to tell him that he'd better crawl up those stairs because she's not going to take him to hospital/help him. For an entire week, he had his arm dislocated, and was in excruciating pain, bleeding, before I assume my mother intervened and took him to the emergency room. My grandmother claims that she didn't take him to the hospital because of COVID, but she literally goes out several times a week to shop, and show no concern over bringing home COVID. She complained about having to take care of him after his fall, and complain about having to dress his bloody bandages and how he would leave them in random spots. Not to mention that she has consistently been emotionally abusing him throughout all of this, and has been doing so for years. My mom and my aunts are aware that my grandfather is being abused on a daily basis, but they feel as though they cannot do anything. My grandfather expressed in the past that he did not want to leave my grandmother, because she is his love, but that was a while ago when he said that. We feel like we cannot do anything unless my grandfather says that he wants to leave, which even if he does, he probably wouldn't, because he would probably feel guilty about leaving my grandmother behind. My grandparents are old and in their 80s, and my grandfather's dementia seems to be getting worse. I know that old age can completely change an individual, and I'm scared that my grandmother is going to get even more violent than she already was. Earlier this year, she had fallen and hurt her back and had to go to the hospital for surgery because she had attacked my grandfather, and he had held out his hands in self-defense. For the longest time she has gotten away with abusing others, and I don't want to put up with this anymore. I just want this woman put in a home, away from my other family members. I've seen what her abuse has done to my mother and how it has completely destroyed her, made her depressed, chronically anxious, angry, suicidal, etc. Please, someone help me. I feel sick to my stomach thinking about this, and I'm done with being complicit in this. I just need someone to give me advice on what I should do and provide me with some resources, mainly if my grandfather stands firm on staying with my grandmother when asked again if he wants to leave. Because my grandparents are so old, laws must be different pertaining to abuse. Surely, someone can help get my grandfather away from all of this without having to have his permission to do so. I'm at a loss. I'm willing to provide more information if needed, but I don't know how much I can give because I'm only the granddaughter and I don't know how my family would feel about me asking internet strangers for help, even if I'm anonymous. Update: my brother-in-law and I are looking to get in contact with other family members who follow my grandparents more closely, as well as my uncle, who may be willing to take my grandfather in. As of now, though, things aren't looking too good. According to my sister, APS says that they cannot follow through with investigations where the person being abused doesn't wish to leave. So I need to get in contact with my grandfather and hopefully hear him say that he wants to leave, or else I'm powerless. Because I live with my sister, she is afraid that calling APS, even if I'm anonymous, is going to open a can of worms and that this will ultimately result in her ruining the relationships that she has with my mom, grandparents, aunts, etc. I want to take control and do this on my own, but my relationship with my sister will end if I purposefully go against her orders, and I might even end up homeless. I will update as soon as I find the time to sit down and talk with my grandfather. Poor man has probably been dealing with this his whole life. Shit like this doesn't just start from nowhere. Are you in the US? So call APS, Adult Protective Services, in your state, and tell them all of this. They have to at least do a welfare check, and if they are anything like Child Protective Services they will not tell anyone, including your grandmother, who made the report. Adult Protective Services are a thing. Start by Googling elder abuse and look through the hits to find your local sources of information. This is something you need more guidance on than we can give you. There are government agencies and non-profits galore that will guide you and your family. I wouldn't start with the elder abuse lawyers yet. Personally, if your grandfather is already suffering from dementia, getting one of them out of the house for his safety is paramount. I don't know if your grandmother can be put in a home. Can she drive, prepare her own meals, handle her finances still, maintain reasonable standards of personal hygiene and environmental cleanliness? If yes to these questions, and she doesn't want to go into a home, you'll all have a fight on your hands. On the other hand, if the answer is no to these questions, then you have grounds for an involuntary commitment for her. Again, get help from your local agencies for specific guidance. If you can get grandma out, then keeping your grandfather in familiar surroundings is best for helping his dementia, especially if someone he knows and loves can move in full-time with him. He will be asking where his wife is, But since he's already experiencing dementia, it's easiest on the dementia patient to say something like she's coming back later and then distracting him. Peter's necessary. Now, if you can't get Graham out, the next best thing is to get him out. She could kill him, you're right. Tell your family to make a plan for his safety. Your local elder abuse agency will guide you on how to talk to your family and how to make a plan for your grandfather's care. Best wishes. You're a good grandkid for caring.